What is up? Welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday evening. I am joined by two guys you see on this podcast quite often, but I have not had the opportunity to have them both on at the same time. We'll start with Sean Murphy first. Podcast quite often, but I have not had the opportunity to have.
I was wondering if that was me, and I was like, "Oh no!"
You got a clone out here, bro. That's what's up.
Wondering if that was me, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh, it's echoing like a mofo.
Oh
You got a
god!
clone out here, bro. That's what's up.
And I was like,
Oh, it's echoing like a mofo.
"Oh
You got
god!"
a clone out here, bro. We're in off-season mode. It happens.
StreamYard, fix your damn app.
If this isn't a beautiful metaphor for what this podcast will be, I don't know what is.
Yes.
If this
I
isn't a beautiful
think
metaphor
what I'm
for
gonna
what
do
this
is I'm
podcast
gonna
will be, I
get
don't
off
know what is.
and then come back on and then
That's
restart.
kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay, let's leave the studio. We'll be right back. I'm gonna get off and then come back on and then
That's
restart.
kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay, let's. Okay, I don't know if we're still echoing.
I hope not.
Okay, no, we're not. We're just waiting for Eric to come on back. Oh man, that was funny. I don't think that's ever happened to me before. We're just waiting for Eric to come on back.
I think I can still hear it.
That was funny. I don't think that's ever happened to me before. We're just waiting for Eric to come on back.
I think I can still hear it.
That was funny. I don't think that's ever happened to me before.
What the heck? It started
Where's
as soon
that-
as Eric came into the call.
You got a window open on your computer, Eric?
Don't think so. I think it's gone now, though.
Okay, here we go.
You guys hear anything?
Let's just stop moving.
Hands up,
Keep
everybody.
talking. We just keep proceeding us forward.
Okay, so
Yes, I think we're good.
we're gonna start this over. Okay, I'm gonna edit the first 2 minutes out. Holy crap!
Only the few people who are here at the beginning get to see this part.
Yeah, the Pistons Talk bloopers.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday evening. I'm joined. You can't laugh, man.
Sorry.
It's not good. I'm joined by two guests that have been on this podcast quite a bit, but I haven't had the opportunity to have them both on with me at the same time. We got Sean Murphy from Half Court and Eric Vincent from ClutchPoints.com, Detroit Pistons beat reporter. Fellas, welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Anthony, what's going on? Eric, it's always good to see you, my friend. I think this is just a combination that just makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons. We all get along and we're all mutual friends, but also Eric and myself actually we sit by each other quite a bit whenever I'm at Pistons games, or a lot of times we're plotted to sit right next to each other. So I feel like this is kind of an opportunity for people to hear what our game conversations are like, but in a microphone setting and over StreamYard. So yeah, man, it's just great to be here. Good to see you guys and good to talk some basketball, man. What, 60 plus days until preseason, probably like 40 plus days till media day. So right around the corner, sooner than you think, people. Pistons basketball will be back.
Hey, the schedule drops in 3 weeks. So
Yep.
Can't wait to overreact to that, because I always do.
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
Yeah, that first week we're always like, oh, that's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, instead of the Celtics, what are they going to give us? Like the Cavs, like three days in a row? Like it'd probably be
Just give us
something like
ring
that.
ceremony night for give us ring ceremony night for OKC just cause to
Yeah, my bitches was lighting up over the preseason schedule. I can't wait to see what the regular season schedule is gonna be like. 3 away games. Like, yeah, I know, guys. Just
only
let it
one
ride.
home game in the preseason. Detroit versus everybody.
So I don't know if he would care if I share this, but you guys know Ben Carloni, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, shout out to Ben.
So I posted, I was like, I can't believe we had 3 road games. And, he like swiped up on Instagram and he's like, well, the reason why we have 3 road games is the NBA doesn't actually set our preseason schedules. He's like, it's from the previous regime. So if you want to blame somebody, blame Troy Weaver. but we have 3 road games.
Oh God. It
Fair
always
enough.
comes back to Troy Weaver. Somehow, some way, it always goes back to Troy.
I can't tell if that's a joke or not, but if that's real, it's like that's crazy.
No, they use that as serious because you look at the other NBA teams' preseason schedules, and they're 2-2, 2 home games, 2 road games. Maybe they thought they were still going to actually be in the front office, and they're like, "Hey, let's just give us 3 road games so we can extend our vacation." I don't know.
I do find it poetic that Pistons fans get to blame Troy Weaver for something one last time.
Yes.
Kind of like a swan song thing, if you will.
Yeah. The teams get to pick the preseason schedule. I'm not sure about that, Ryan. I just know what Ben told me that, previous regime picked it, and it'll go back to 2 road games, 2 home games next year. So maybe Trajan and the guys will actually pick some games we can get excited about.
I can't say for certain, but I do believe that teams do at least have a bit of a say in those preseason games. Last year specifically, there was the Matt Ishbia bowl essentially in East Lansing where the Pistons played the Suns.
Yeah.
Where Matt Ishbia played college with, is on those guys in attendance. Obviously, Ishbia also working at UWM, so there's the Michigan ties as well. So just like that's an example. And also a lot of the games are, at like special venues or at like, like alternative locations for teams. So although I don't think the league, I don't think the league has no involvement. I think teams certainly at least, have a very, very influential say in what that preseason looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about preseason, and
exactly. That's why it's like, I mean, these games, it's literally the basketball equivalent of whose line is it anyway. The games are made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to call anything or travels. I mean, like maybe, we'll get rookies fighting again like we did last year, like first game of the preseason, but hey, you never know.
You can only hope.
With it being off season, there have been a lot of, top 10 rankings coming out, and I wanted to get both of your guys' reaction. I know I talked about this on a separate podcast, kind of just discussing I think it was the Pistons were in the top 10 with the Eastern Conference ranking. So I wanted to kind of get your guys' overall thoughts on this. Do you think that they are the 4th best team in the Eastern Conference this upcoming season?
You go ahead, Sean. I'll let you go ahead.
Personally, being being as objective as I can be, I think this is an appropriate ranking, assuming the Pistons maintain the roster as is, and there's not any trades, injuries, things of that nature. I think they made solid additions, but I do think it's important to recognize the loss that Malik Beasley is as a 3-point shooter. It is important to recognize the loss, even, that Dennis Schroeder is as a facilitator and a playmaker and even just like a defender. He's, a pest and annoying as hell. And I mean that as a compliment with the way that he plays. And so that's not nothing. However, obviously Detroit has the trade exception. They have, other avenues to improve the roster during the season, but also I think you're going to see natural improvement from year 2 of JB's regime. You're going to see improvement of Jaden Ivey coming back into the lineup. You're also going to see, the impact of the year 2 Ron Holland bump, which I think, I'm not saying he's going to be this, crazy star, but I think, he can certainly be a very productive role player, this season for Detroit. And I also think Asar Thompson having a full summer healthy in the gym, you've already seen the muscle he's added on. I think we're going to see a massive jump from him. I think at the very least that helps Detroit maintain their win total from last season. And even though this Eastern Conference is certainly not, for an East, like how weak the East normally is compared to the West, this is a particularly weak East. That doesn't mean the top doesn't have some very good teams. And I do think if we're looking at like as of today, who are the 3 best teams based on what we know, I think it's appropriate to put Cleveland, New York, and Orlando up there in that order. People might scoff at Orlando because they're a play-in team, all those things, but people forget when they were healthy the year before, how good they were. And even, at the beginning of this season when everything was looking good, and then they go and add Desmond Bane. So all that to say, I think this is a pretty reasonable ranking, and I wouldn't put Detroit any lower than 4.
I would say it's appropriate. I think when you're looking at rankings, whether it's teams or players, like I think it's all based on the arguments that are made. And I think you can make an argument that, in my opinion, I think you can make an argument that the Pistons could be as high as 3, but maybe at the floor, I would say 6 or 7, just based on the landscape of the East right now. A lot of what they're going to do, obviously, is predicated on their young core. Trajan has been very vocal about that. He said he wants that to be the focus, even if that comes to the detriment of winning. He wants to know what he has with his young foundational pieces. And, luckily for the Pistons' benefit, last season, a lot of their heavy lifting came from what the young guys did in terms of their steps forward. Cade having an All-NBA season, Jaden Ivey taking a step forward, looking like a really great compliment to Cade in the backcourt, Duren having a really strong second half, Asar looking like the, number 5 pick that they wanted him to be. Stu being one of the better defenders, Ron Holland stepping up, and obviously the veterans complementing that, making them all better as a team. I don't think the East, I don't want to say it's weak, because I still do think it's going to be competitive in this conference. Like Sean said, there's still a lot of talent from, the top down, from the Knicks, the Cavs. I really like what the Hawks have. I'm not sleeping on the Celtics either. I like them adding Anthony Simons. I think that can really give them some help. Even towards the bottom, like I was on a different pod. Shout out to my guy Downtown Deuce. I think, like, my hot take for the Eastern Conference this year, I think the Hornets can make that 10th seed. Like, I really do think it's a lot of talent from top to bottom in the East, maybe outside of the, postseason teams. They have their ways to go, but it's not going to be easy for the Pistons. I think it's going to be a tough sledding for them, and it's going to say a lot about them, because it's one thing to surprise the league in the first season, but now when there's film around you and people can kind of game plan a little bit better, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher in this second go around, even with the injuries that are plagued to the other teams. But no, I think it's appropriate for them to kind of be in this range. I don't think 4 is too bad for them. And, depending on how they do, like I said, with terms of their roster construction throughout the season, yeah, I think this is kind of a fair slate for them to be listed as a playoff team based on the strength of their team right now with the roster.
I agree with both of you. I think 4 is a very fair ranking. And they still have 2 open roster spots. Like, the roster still isn't complete. I mean, could they make a trade before the season? Who knows? Could they just, run it back with Trey Lyles as the backup 4? Who knows? But I honestly really like this ranking. I'll just say one thing. There are 2 teams in this top 10 by NBA.com that just scream fraud alert to me. It's the 76ers and the Raptors.
Totally agree.
I don't know how you don't have the Boston Celtics in the top 10. They were ranked 11. I would bare minimum.
That's crazy. Yeah.
At 7. I just don't buy the 76ers. I don't buy that they're going to stay healthy. Like, they still have not given an update on Joel Embiid's status. They did a really great article on ESPN, I think last month or a couple of weeks ago, a really in-depth article with him, but you never got an update on what his availability is, if he's going to be healthy for the season. Paul George is already hurt. He got hurt in a workout. He's back to podcast P. Honestly, I just don't buy the 76ers, and their over under is I want to say it was in the 40s. I'm smashing the under.
Yeah,
I just don't buy it.
I mean, Paul George is going into camp with an injury. Joel Embiid is going into camp. Didn't he have a surgery at some point as well? And like you said, all the reports about his knee are not good.
Right.
And all the reports have just been oh gosh, what have we done? And like you said, that profile they did on Joel Embiid is almost as disturbing as the injury stuff, with just, how inner focused his mindset really is and how fractured his relationship with the organization actually is. It's not a great read if you're a 76ers fan. But really, really good reporting. And then, just the young guys, there's a lot of upside and talent here to but they're young guys who need their touches and are going to make mistakes and need to grow and learn. And quite frankly, I think all the signs and, everything that's happened is saying, you should rebuild. You should go to the youth movement. But unfortunately, with the holes that they've dug themselves, mainly this Joel Embiid extension, which in this hard cap league, no one is going to touch with a 10-foot pole, they're stuck. They have to keep trying to win because they've put their resources into this Joel Embiid, this idea that you can win a championship with Joel Embiid. And even if he was healthy, I just have my doubts. So yeah, I am all the way out on the 76ers.
I'm totally with you on the Raptors too. I'm not really high on what their core is right now for really a lot of the same reasons you just said, Sean. I don't think Brandon Ingram is going to be healthy enough to carry them to what they're looking for. I don't think Scotty Barnes is the number one option. I just don't think they've really assembled enough to take any kind of like surmountable steps in the Eastern Conference. Like I said, I still think there's a lot of talent within this conference. I think the Pacers are still going to be dangerous, under the tutelage of Rick Carlisle. I think the Heat are always a team that you don't really sleep on. Again, we talked about the Celtics. Again, I'll keep, trumping about the Hornets because I think they're going to be better than people think this season. I really like what the Hawks did all off season. Like it's not going to be easy for teams like the Raptors to kind of just step in. I feel like there's always a team in the league, whether it's on either side of the conference, where they kind of just take the league by storm and surprise a lot of people. I just don't see the Sixers or the Raptors being either of those teams, especially not the Sixers. Yeah, I don't see really any good coming out of that team for this season. They need to start hitting that reset button really soon.
I'm pretty sure their pick is someone has swap rights or top 5 protected, so they're probably going to tank in an even better draft class coming up. So, well, we're going back to the tanking 76ers, but instead of Sam Hinkie, it's Daryl Morey, and he'll just kind of like, oh, we had injuries. We'll be back in the playoffs next year. Type of thing.
And if the goal for the Raptors was to just overcommit a lot of money to a lot of players that are not worth paying said money, then they are passing with flying colors. Congratulations to them. Now, if Dwayne Casey does go into that organization, I hope he can go in and whip it into shape. But as currently constructed, I am not optimistic.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like if I got fired from someplace, I don't know if I'd want to go back and like work there again.
I know said the same thing.
It is kind of baller though that like instead of being like the coach, now you're given the keys to the kingdom of the place that you were fired. Like them coming and crawling back to you. Like there is almost kind of like so you need me type of reality to that.
You got to strong arm your ex. You just won Coach of the Year the same year you got fired. You got a strong arm in there and showing how great you are. I was shocked when I saw that report. So we'll see what happens. Shout out to Dwayne Casey.
Yeah, I mean, like they gave him a promotion. They gave Mets the Fancy's old role. He got promoted to senior advisor. So I mean, first year was a scout and senior advisor. So obviously Tom Gores and the Pistons value him. But I mean, I just don't buy the Raptors, John. I know me and you have been on podcasts before. I just don't buy it. It's just like there's a lot of talent there, but it's like there's one freaking basketball. Like you think RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickly are going to coexist with each other. I just don't see it. I don't buy them as a top 10 team. One team that I'm kind of like low key, it wouldn't surprise me if they competed for a play-in spot. It's the Washington Wizards. Because I just kind of like the vets that they have. I like their draft. I think Alex Sarr is going to take a big jump because he doesn't have to deal with Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole just chucking low percentage shots. I think CJ McCollum can really go in there, bring that professionalism. They still have Chris Middleton on that roster. I could possibly see them being that final 10 seed, but who knows with Charlotte? Charlotte, it's just it's a thing where it's like where I want to believe in you, but you're that cousin at the family reunion that just can't get your shit together every year. Like everyone, like you're just a disappointment.
Yeah,
they coming in with a clean fit this year, man. They shaping up.
And not to sound like the gullible girlfriend who keeps going back, but like they're going to therapy. They got a new wardrobe.
That's right.
No, in all seriousness, like they got new ownership. The Charles Lee is a solid coach who's bringing infrastructure, and the biggest reason why. Like, I agree with you, Anthony. I like a lot of what Washington's doing, but the reason why I'd lean towards Charlotte is because there's some real incentive for them to actually start winning some games and some pressure on guys like LaMelo Ball to start to produce because, he's going to have, contract conversations coming up again real soon. And if you're Charlotte, based off of what's gone on, even though you're not really trying to win a ton of games either, you still want him on the court. Based on what's happened, what makes you believe he's going to be and to give him max dollars, which is what he's going to want. And then Brandon Miller, you need to start seeing some light at the end of that tunnel and see that talent really start to produce. And, they went and got like a guy like Concanapple who can like come in and he can play now. Like say what people want, like about his upside or whatever he is. Like he's a guy who's going to come in and be a solid NBA player for years. And like, I think there's something to be said about getting like a quality shooter for their playmakers to play around. And so I think they're at least, I think they at least have something compared to what they've had in the past. And if there's a team that, like has to take that jump, otherwise, like, what are we doing here? To me, it's Charlotte in the East.
I'll give you guys a hot take. I think Lonzo Ball gets traded at the dedeadline if their season just goes south. I think he's
LaMelo.
Gone. Did I say Lonzo? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's
LaMelo
fair.
Ball.
I was like, oh wow, wow, hot take. Cleveland could no, but no, I 100% agree with you. I think that's absolutely on the table, and especially if his agent starts saying some stuff about how he wants to start looking at other locations. Like I could see Charlotte going, all right, man, we're good, thanks, but see you later.
Yeah, I just think like the way that they're building, like the guys that they're drafting. I don't like to label certain players, but LaMelo to me just doesn't feel like the culture that Charlotte's trying to set. Like you look in their recent drafts, like they're going after certain archetypes, and LaMelo Ball is very talented. He's really fun to watch, but it really hasn't translated to a whole lot of wins. And Charlotte might want to kind of cash their chips in, and maybe they can get a young prospect, maybe some future draft capital, and LaMelo can go be a point guard for another team, maybe in the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference. I just don't buy him being there long term, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't like the term of people saying he's not a winning player. I think his numbers and his game can equate to winning, but he just needs a very specific roster around him. Like if he were on like the Lob City Clippers, if we were old enough, I think that'd be like a perfect kind of team for him to play on, a team that could run and gun, play. They didn't predicate a lot of defense when they were there, but I think like that kind of style is really fitting to him. What they have in Charlotte right now, even though I do like some of the vets they have, Grant Williams coming back, Seth Curry, they just picked up Colin Sexton. I think they have some good pieces around them, but yeah, he's got to be on his absolute A game to make that work. And yeah, it wouldn't shock me if we do start hearing his name in some trade discussions just based on what their expectations are, because yeah, they got to start winning much sooner than later, and they got to stay healthy first in order to make that happen, which has been one of their biggest problems over the past several years.
Not to be a devil's advocate for the is he a winning player category, but the things to me that I think he needs to prove in order to show like his talent isn't just like like a fun league pass watch and is like something like a team could build around, is he's shown flashes of being a good defender. He needs to lock in and actually try on a consistent basis. On the offensive end, I don't think anyone questions his ability and his talent. And we've seen a lot of the ridiculous plays and shots that he's made. And it's like, just because he can make a lot of these ridiculous shots doesn't mean he should take a lot of these ridiculous shots.
Right.
And I think he really needs to hone in and like raise his efficiency. And, I think that's just the big thing is as entertaining and, as much of a fun basketball player as he is, which when LaMelo's healthy and when he's playing at his best, he is electric. But, just a lot of the dumb turnovers, the ridiculous, almost half court heaves or, like heavily contested threes. There's areas of his game where if he wants to be, like that, like number one guy on a team going forward, like he just has to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, some of the just fadeaways on one leg and his body's in the opposite direction. Like, if it goes in, it's probably ESPN or SportsCenter top 10. But like when it doesn't go in, you just got coaches just like throwing their hands up. But hey, Eric, you never know. You might prove me wrong. Maybe Charlotte is in that play-in spot if they are healthy. I do like their offseason, getting Colin Sexton for dirt cheap, getting some vets around them. I'm really high on Brandon Miller still. I'm really hoping he can have a full healthy season because he's one of the best up and coming young players that our league does have. But it's a fun topic, fellas. We're gonna get into another one now. This one I feel caused a lot of uproar with Detroit Pistons fans and Magic fans. And you guys probably know where I'm going. If you follow myself, you follow Eric, or I don't even know if Sean even got into it. It was probably not. Sean probably had to sit this one out with Magic fans.
Oh boy, what's going? I actually don't. I don't even entirely know. I actually think I somehow escaped this.
So NBA.com, they're at it again. So they made a list of the top 10 players in the Eastern Conference. I'll read these real quick and we can kind of give our overall thoughts and reactions. So we got Giannis 1, Jalen Brunson 2, Donovan Mitchell 3, Paolo Banchero 4, Cade Cunningham 5, Joel Embiid 6, Evan Mobley 7, Jaylen Brown 8, Karl Anthony Towns 9, and Trae Young 10. So I'll ask you guys this question. Is Paolo Banchero better than Cade Cunningham?
No, it's I don't like this list at all. I won't say I don't like the list. I don't like Cade's placement on the list, and Paolo's being above him is a big reason why. Like, first of all, Paolo's one of my favorite players in the league. I love watching his game. I was huge on him when he was coming out of college. But no, he's not better than Cade Cunningham right now. I just don't see it. Again, when we're looking at rankings of players, I think you can make arguments for people to be in different ranges of players. And I think for Cade, I don't think he can be any lower realistically than 3 on this list. I think Giannis got number 1 sold up. I don't think that's going to be a big discussion, but you can make a valid argument. He's better. Obviously, I think he's better than Paolo. I think he's way better than Donovan Mitchell. And I think you can even make an argument he's better than Brunson, even right now. I think looking at what Paolo has done for the Magic, like, I paid attention to Magic Twitter. Y'all don't even believe he's your number 1 for some of y'all. Like, y'all have had arguments whether Franz is the guy or Apollo's the guy. Like, that's not a discussion happening here in the Pistons community. Like, Cade is the certified number 1 guy. He's been a floor raiser, and a ceiling raiser since he's got here as a rookie. And, again, based on a lot of other guys that are on this list, what Cade has been given compared to a lot of other guys on these lists, Cade's core since he was a rookie has just been, I don't want to say laughable, but it's just kind of crazy that he's never had a real star, never had any real consistency in terms of coaching, front office development, the rosters, placement, like everything has just kind of been in the air. And Cade has always found a way to look like a star or a superstar in the making. So, from the playmaking, I think Cade's a far better defender than the 3 guys ahead of him. And again, the leadership I put into high consideration as well. I don't really understand how he fell all the way down to 5, especially seeing what he did in the playoffs. Even though they didn't win, he helped keep them in every single game, and he was productive in every single game that they played against the Knicks. So, no, I don't think Cade should be any lower than 3 on this list.
Yeah, I can understand the debate between Donovan and Cade. I think, especially if you're just going off of like previous playoff experience, Donovan's an absolute stud in that department. When it comes to Paolo, I think, as along with Eric, like I'm as high on Paolo as about anyone in the Pistons space probably. But I think if we're just like, if this is going off of like projections, okay, if that's your opinion, I think you're wrong, but sure. But if we're just going off of the eye test and everything that we've seen, like Cade's done like a lot more with a lot less. And on top of that, like you just look at, you look at the analytics and just Paolo, he's a very talented player, but kind of similar to LaMelo, where his shot profile is questionable at best. A lot of times his efficiency is really not very good when it comes to his shooting. So there's just a lot of areas where he needs to grow in that aspect. I think Cade is a stronger defender, especially relative, to his position group, but even just in general, I think Cade is a more consistent defender night in, night out. And on top of that, like, there's, Cade is a guy where, like one thing Orlando is really going to benefit from is getting like a Tyus Jones this offseason, like a point guard who can come in and run their system and, and can bring like, fluidity to that system. Cade Cunningham is the system,
right?
And he's the guy that everything goes around and is built around. And, like, yes, there is like a system, so to speak, but it's really predicated on allowing Cade to run the offense and for things to go through him. And, like, it's just, I think there's just a lot of areas, especially because at certain points you kind of have to nitpick between these two players. But I just think there's a lot of intangible things where I think if you're asking a lot of guys, for like 23 and under or 24 and under, like who are you taking in the league if you're making a ranking? I don't think Cade is very low on that ranking at all. I think there's a very, very small list of players who would be above him in that ranking.
I think anytime there's lists like this, it's going to cause debate and upstart. And I'm really surprised you didn't beep this, Sean, because I felt like you would have taken a prime opportunity just to piss Magic fans off like you did Timberwolves fans this year. But,
maybe it's the fact that I'm from Grand Rapids, so there's kind of the weird tie to Orlando. Maybe it's the summer, and so I'm feeling some zen because the weather's out and the vibes are good. But honestly, it's like it's not even a thing against Paolo. He's a great player. I just don't see a world where you could put him, above Cade Cunningham and have a straight face. I just don't agree.
I think what you said, Sean, like Cade Cunningham is the system. When Paolo went out with an oblique tear, Franz Wagner carried the weight.
Yep.
If Cade Cunningham got injured, it's a lottery team, fellas.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the way you have to kind of look at just the overall value. And I think all of us have a different perspective of how we rank players and how we would come up with top 10 list. Eric, I think you're on the nose. Like, you could have a debate right now who's better between Jalen Brunson and Cade Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
You could say Cade Cunningham is the best point guard in the East, and I don't really think a lot of people would disagree with you there. There's a lot of stuff that he does both ends of the floor, which I think matters because a lot of point guards in the NBA don't really play a whole lot of defense. Cade does that.
Right.
His usage rate is through the roof. It's in the 30s. It's just because, his second leading scorer next to him was out for a majority of the season. So he had to take more of just a heavy of, I'm trying not to say a word because I know Sean's going to say that's what she said, but just a high usage. I know how you
What's
are.
With the L, 4 letters.
I'm an Office fan. I'm an Office fan. You get me. You get me.
I was like, if I say that word, he's going to say that's what she said. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I think if you just look at Cade's body of work through the regular season after Jaden Ivey went down in the playoffs, a big reason why they were in each and every game against the Knicks was because of Cade Cunningham's leadership. Not saying that Paolo Banchero can't lead a team, but to Eric's point, like, there are people on Magic Twitter that said, no, Franz Wagner is a better basketball player than Paolo Banchero. We think Franz is better. Like, Pistons don't really have that luxury where, like, if Cade went down, like, someone could step up and they're a top 6 seed in the East. Like, if he goes down, our season's over. So I think you could have a debate, Cade being 3. I think I would rank him 3. I think I would rank him above Donovan Mitchell. Not to say that Donovan Mitchell isn't a talented player, but I just think Cade overall, both ends of the floor, and what he has to deal with, day in and day out against these opposing teams, I think his plate is way more full than Donovan Mitchell, that has the luxury of playing with Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and they have a bunch of young, intriguing players and, veterans off the bench. I just think you kind of just look at Cade and what he has to deal with night in and night out. He has to drop at least 25, 30 points for them to even be in basketball games.
Yeah. And at least have 5-6 assists to go along with it too. It's not just the scoring he has to do. Like, he has to generate like 2/3 of their offense essentially in order for them to be in games.
Yeah, I look at I was going at it with some Knicks fans too. Because again, if people think Brunson's better, I ain't gonna argue with you. With what we just saw in the postseason, from what he's done through his career on 2 different teams, I'm not mad at it at all. I hate the people who are, it's Brunson and it's not even close.
You just gotta tip the cap, man. Brunson's a hell of a player.
Bruh, like, come on. Like, I'll give him his credit for sure. I just look at, for me, and again, it's 2 different conversations. It could be either projection, 3 really, projection, what they've done currently and what they've done in their past. So Brunson, obviously, his career resume is obviously a little more stacked than Cade based on what he's done thus far. But I just feel like Cade's ceiling to me just outweighs even more of what Brunson has done in his past. Like, I can make an argument that we may, like, I don't want to say he's peaked, but I do question and wonder how much better Donovan Mitchell can be with the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Same with the Knicks. I mean, he did a lot of carrying for them last season, and they had 2 other stars on their team. So I kind of wonder how much better are we really going to see Brunson be compared to what we saw last season. Cade, I think, has an argument to be one of the best players in basketball. Not best point guards, not best players in the East, best players in basketball based on what we've seen thus far. And again, that's just the way I assess it. Again, I understand the debate and the argument. I just think Cade's upside compared to a lot of other people, like he to me is like an untouchable player that I don't think the Pistons would want to deal, because I think he has so much hope that we've already seen through struggle seasons. They just finally got a little bit of success. And with how well he played, even in, stressful situations with injuries, playing in, tight situations, quarter by quarter, possession by possession, he showed up every single time. And, knowing that their roster can get a little bit better, the guys are going to take another step forward as a young core. Like, to me, it just means that there could be a really, really high ceiling for this man that we haven't even seen yet, which is scary coming off an all NBA season and a playoff spot and an all-star projection as well.
Now, you know what would get me to get out the bleep button, Anthony? You know what the thing that actually boggles my mind on this list?
What's that?
Like,
Joel Embiid?
How in the is Joel Embiid above Evan Mobley? If we're going off of last season and projecting in the future, Joel Embiid, like, I watched him last season. I have eyeballs. He looked geriatric when he was on the court. Like, his movement was terrible. And this is like, and in all the reports, everything we're hearing is it's not good things. And centers, when they're in their 30s who've had knee problems, they don't just go away as you get older. It's not how knees work, not how health works, not how aging works. So, and then Evan Mobley, like, defensive player of the year winner this last year, like taking a lot of leaps, has been a really consistent player. Like,
especially on offense.
Yeah. And to your guys' point, like, people like this boggles my mind, even because it feels like just yesterday I was watching Donovan Mitchell as a rookie go out and play really well for Utah in the playoffs. But this is already, like, he's 28. This is going to be year 9 for him. So this is prime Donovan Mitchell.
Exactly.
Whereas with Cade Cunningham, he was arguably a top 10, 15 player last season, and he's only like 23 years old and still on the ascension and has a lot of area to grow.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm looking at this list, there are 3 players on it. If they got hurt, they're probably lottery teams. It's Giannis, it's Cade, it's Trae Young.
Yeah.
And I guess you want to throw Joel Embiid, but they're already a lottery team with them healthy, so I guess it doesn't count.
I go Jaylen Brown over Trae Young right now, personally, just based off the personnel they have. But
okay.
But I get the Trae Young thing too.
That's fair.
I think when you kind of like look at it in that context, like, if these players were injured, how valuable are they actually? And like, then you kind of get into the conversation of like these top 10 lists, because I think there's a lot of different variables, and both of you guys attack different areas of like how you value top 10 lists. But I think Cade could be as high as 2 this season. Sean, I know you're a big Jalen Brunson supporter. I mean, you were pounding the table for the Pistons to get him years ago. I still have that clip of all of us clowning you.
Me too.
Oh yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, he's a highly skilled player. There's obviously questions about how he ages, and talk about, like, a guy who needs to stay healthy in order to continue to play at that level. Because if once he starts dealing with injury stuff with his size, once he starts to lose even a little bit of that burst, it gets a lot harder for him to produce.
Oh, I'm confused. Some's got to be off with this list. I know I'm not tripping. Where's Derek White on this list? How is the almighty Derek White? Now, he got to be top 5, right? Am I tripping? I know I'm not tweaking out. Derek White has to be on this list. Everyone tells me he's the best 3-and-D player. Where's Derek White at? Why was he not on this list? What am I missing here, guys?
I don't know, but Eric, you're a big wrestling fan, right?
Love wrestling, of course. Me and Sean.
Oh yeah, like,
I know what's about to happen.
I haven't watched wrestling in a while, but when are you going to tell us that he put you in? He put you in the walls of white.
Hey, yo.
Walls of Jericho.
I'm not Drake as the referee. Of course he's the law. Of course, Lawbury is the ref. I have no chance in this match. Oh, that's great. What wrestler who'd you put my face over?
I'm pretty sure that's Dean Ambrose. Yeah.
Oh, one time for Dean Ambrose. I love that. Yo, I'm crying. I need that clipped up. I need that immediately.
Oh, we'll clip it. We'll clip it
The
up.
walls of white is great, but I
Yes.
do need the walls of Jericho to be recognized.
God.
I know. I was telling son, I was like, should I Photoshop Derek White putting Derek?
He was like, "Is this too far?" And I was like, "Eric's going to love that."
That's the best thing I've seen all summer. That's so
absolutely. That is incredible.
Oh man, Photoshop skills, man.
Well done.
Photoshop's a beautiful gift to society.
I think what it made it 10 times funnier is the bottom of it, WWE Payback.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
If people don't know, if you want to piss Eric off, there are two people you have to mention. It's Drake and Derek White. It just like I saw a Derek White tweet this week, and I was like, should I send it to Eric? I was like, nah, I'll probably find his timeline. And I go out for a walk. 3 hours later, I see Eric quote tweeted, "Is this like, how is this bum like in conversations with stars? Like, is he better than Trae Young?" I was like, oh yeah, I knew he was gonna find it.
Of course. It was that, and then the podcast. Like, who asked for a Derek White podcast? Who was sitting here thinking, man, you know what personality we really need? Derek White. No, enough.
I need Eric Vincent featured on the Derek White podcast one day. That is a goal, a thing in my life I need to see. Like, whether it's like they show a tweet of his, whether it's they somehow invite him on the podcast. Eric, don't tell me with a straight face if Derek White invited you on the Derek White podcast that you would say no.
Oh no, I joined, and then I'd RKO him right away. There would be no conversation. Just a quick RKO, and I'm out.
StreamYard?
Yep, easy.
I mean, why wait till StreamYard? Why don't you just go in the media room when the Celtics are in town?
I ain't gonna say too much, you know. If they got extra security that day, you know why.
Hey, we're gonna be petitioning it. We need Eric on the White podcast.
White podcast is crazy. Gotta do better than that. That cannot be the name of it. No. Nah, bro.
Eric somehow accidentally gets on like Joe Rogan. And we're like, not that
right,
White
exactly.
podcast.
Fox News blowing me up. Like, what? I just want to talk to you guys.
Be on Tucker Carlson's podcast.
Lord.
I'm now joined by Eric Vincent
And Theo
Why
Vine.
is that?
All right, we're gonna talk about something that I think everybody and their brother has been talking about this summer. It's Malik Beasley.
My brother's been talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of, I think, speculation and assuming because people just don't know. I was watching Pat Bev's podcast, and apparently they ran into each other in Europe. And Beasley told him, "I'm going to be on the roster next year." I don't really have the full quote put up in front of me. I can just kind of paraphrase off the top of my head. Basically said that he was chilling, feels good. You know, it seems like he was in a good place. But what do you guys kind of make of, you know, Pat Bev's pods and his comments? I know you could probably try to take it with a grain of salt, but do you think there could be a possibility we could see Malik Beasley on an NBA team this upcoming season?
I don't want to. I can't say 100% either way. But if I were to, I don't even want to use this expression. But if I were to bet on it, I would say no. I just don't think like it
That
seems
was
like.
intentional.
No, not at all. Shout out Malik Beasley. I hope he's doing well. I hope he's in good spirits because it seems like it's two different perceptions right now. If you see what he's posting on social media, he seems happy as can be. He's on vacation with his woman. He's working out in Miami. Like he seems like he's just trying to, you know, post through, you know, all the noise. And on the other side of that noise, it's not really a whole lot that's indicating that we may be seeing him with the Pistons or anybody else anytime soon. Again, we haven't seen a whole lot of updates in terms of what the investigation is. There's been other news that's come out about him that's not really, you know, hopeful in terms of what his life is alluding to right now. So it I don't know. It just doesn't really look good for him right now. Again, I think he needs some help. I think he needs some support if it's as bad as what these reports are indicating. I think the NBA should kind of have some stuff like this in place instead of just dropping the hammer on their players. I think this kind of support would be helpful for them. But again, if I were to, take a risk, I would say no. It doesn't look like it based on what we've seen thus far.
And I think, for Malik, I obviously I think he has, every reason, to, again, innocent until proven guilty, to, to advocate for his innocence and to, try to get back into the league. And if he is innocent, if he's proven to not be, involved in this scandal, there will certainly be teams lining up. And I certainly think it's not a coincidence that Detroit has an open roster spot and hasn't said a lot about the Malik Beasley situation other than they had to pivot. And it's unfortunate. Like, I think there's a reason why they've been hush about that for the most part. But having said all of that, again, it's really just that's the thing that makes it so difficult is this is not within the control of the NBA. This isn't even an NBA investigation. This is a federal investigation. This is happening, with the FBI. And even though there's been a lot of information that's come out, there's been things like the Pablo Torre podcast episode that, had a lot of revelations. There weren't really a lot of actual revelations about Malik Beasley's involvement or what, where he's actually, kind of found, to be involved in all of this. And even the stuff that's out there, the game that he's allegedly being, investigated for, it's a game where the prop bet was an over on or an under on rebounds, and he went way over. So as Amin Al Hassan said in that episode, if he's in on the action, he really sucks at it. So the thing is to say is the evidence that's out there isn't necessarily super convincing, but that doesn't mean that there isn't information that we're not privy to and that the FBI has. And I think that's the big question coming out of the PTFO episode, and just, kind of going forward is what other names could we hear? How involved, to what extent is everyone, that's been involved? And is the scope beyond what even's been found out? And I think that's the big question, because, I think in a few years, I'm sure athletes will start to see the cautionary tales and, we'll start to see this ramp down a little bit. But I think, we could see a real big wave here of a massive scandal. And, it's just, I think Malik Beasley, unfortunately, is just, a victim of circumstance and bad timing as of right now, just of, that coming out 24 hours before he was going to sign that contract. Just, just from a human element, I know a lot of people are burying him right now, but you got to feel for the guy, especially with all of the things that have been public about the issues that he has going on. Again, you just, from a person perspective, you just hope he's all good first. And primarily, hope he gets back in the league, not just, obviously that'd be great for the Pistons, but to get some, to just get some income and to be able to, just get his life back on track.
Yeah. I mean, just from a human element, I'm wishing him well, praying for him, because that's his livelihood. It sucks seeing, all these publications today write something that's not actually really news. We already knew that he didn't pay his rent. He just hasn't paid his rent in 2 months, and they're calling it breaking news when it's not really breaking news.
No.
I saw that today. I'm like, was that really worth an article? Was that really worth?
And being real, Anthony, you and I both know about way more, way higher paid athletes in Detroit who have had issues of not paying rent to high profile landlords. And so, this isn't a Malik Beasley exclusive thing, or even a uncommon thing for people in higher tax brackets. People will just stop paying because they don't care.
Or even just humans in general. I done missed my rent a couple times. It happens. It's, I feel like people feeling entitled to feel this information. It rubs me the wrong way completely. Again, I understand some of the frustration in terms of how it impacted the Pistons and the team, but JB talks about all the time, in terms of injury with players, the human comes first. Your livelihood comes first. And based on what we're seeing, it seems like he needs some help for real. And hopefully he's getting that respect and that resource for him because, it doesn't seem good right now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that today, and I was like, wow, really? That's what we're doing, and it's kind of convenient because he went on his Snapchat yesterday, first time he's talked since the allegations, and you can tell, he a lot of that noise, whether it was that YouTube video with PTFO or which was a really good deep dive. I mean, I got my popcorn. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like that was just such a good episode. But to your point, Sean, like there wasn't a lot of things pointing that Malik was actually like betting on himself. And like Amin said, like if he was, he's pretty damn bad at it. It's just a lot of assumptions because someone decided to just put a bunch of money on Malik Beasley rebounds.
Yeah, it really wasn't a Malik Beasley story. If you watch the podcast, it's really more about, like the other people on the outside who could be implicated in this bigger, scheme of it all. The only thing we have is those people named Malik Beasley as someone who could be investigated.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so many elements to this. There's the, alleged gambling. There's the, debt off the court, which, to be honest, it's none of my business, like what he does off the court. I'm strictly covering him as a basketball player, and that's just how I do these podcasts. Like if he has trouble off the court, I'm not going to come up here and gossip and look like a jackass. I'm just not going to do it.
This isn't not going to do it. I'm with you.
Right.
No. And I think another thing a lot of fans just don't really understand is they think, well, he signed a $6 million contract. He should have $6 million. They don't get the full amount when they sign these contracts. That's why they're so outrageous. I mean, you got to pay state taxes here in Michigan. He's got agent fees. You got to pay into the NBA. You got to pay into the CBA.
Like, a lot of these guys have trainers. A lot of these guys, work with nutritionists. A lot of these guys, have, like personal situations and things that come up. And also like, there's just the fact that, like before that, he was making like 16 million a year at one point. In Minnesota, and even just like all like the story, like a lot of people like, oh well, he was in jail before. He's clearly is dumb. It's like even if you read up on that story, like he was kind of screwed over by the state of Minnesota, whoever was putting together that home tour program, because I mean that situation shouldn't have even happened.
Yeah, I mean, like how are you gonna put someone's house on like a tour in Minnesota and then not tell them about it? And then you got people coming up on your property. I mean, I know he, allegedly, because I'm like reading this article, he pulled out a firearm, but like if someone comes on my property, like trying to get into my house, like looking through the windows, what the hell am I supposed
when he
to
roped
do?
Off the driveway, like a very clear sign of don't come in.
Right.
Yeah. Just weird stuff. But all that to say, like, like even if he is guilty of what they're being accused, I'm not in the business of like coming out to bash the guy. It's unfortunate that people find themselves in these, in these situations. And this just comes back to like, everyone's human and everyone makes mistakes. And it's just a sign of, we have zero idea of what actually happens with these people when they're off the court, when they're at home, when they're, when they're beyond that. And that's why we talk about guys like Cade Cunningham for his leadership and for his character traits, because that's like, it pays an awful lot when you can have a guy who's real great on the court and you don't have to worry for a single second off the court.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some Pistons that we've probably watched and we've seen them, off the court not do things you probably want them to see to do. I'm not going to name any names, but I mean, you guys could probably connect the dots. But I'm wishing him well. I really am. I'm wishing Malik well. I hope he isn't charged with any of this stuff, because that would be really awful. Don't want him to get like the Jonte Porter treatment of never being able to play basketball again. Like they won't even let Jonte Porter play basketball overseas. Like they denied it, like straight up. Like you're just gonna, bet on yourself again. Like
oh my god, I didn't even know that.
Jeez. Yeah, he tried to go play overseas, and a judge overseas said absolutely not. You're not going to be playing basketball anymore.
Oh yeah, no, he pretty much has zero ability to make income off of his ability to play basketball going forward, which is really unfortunate, because with his skill set, like I legitimately thought he could have had a 5, 6, 7, 8 year NBA career,
He was a hooper.
Which that is not nothing when you talk about the financial implications and all those things.
No, what he did with the Crews, he was really impressive. Really good passer, really good scorer, good defender. Like he was great all-around player, could shoot. He was a really good jack of all trades for that team. So, hopefully he's all right.
Ricky says not even big three. I don't know. Ice Cube might let him play. I'm not really sure. I know it's your boy, Eric. I know last time.
Can people even bet on big three games? I guess that would be the question.
He let it be cool. He don't care. He'll just play. Today was a good day. They be throwing money on the court. You don't care.
I mean, fellas, we can bet on anything. We can bet if a dildo is going to be thrown into the WNBA.
Oh God!
Oh my! What color?
It's the same color every time. What is going on?
It's like what color Gatorade is going to be at the Super Bowl?
Oh my goodness!
Porter's the one throwing. Oh, good. Oh man, organic man. I miss you, brother.
Chill. Golly.
Anyway,
the comments have just went active on this topic. Y'all are filthy.
Speaking of anything else,
Give me a second, man.
There's no segue out of this. There's no clean segue out of this.
There's no people listen on the audio side are gonna be like, why the hell are they laughing so much? Nerdy. You're the comments. I do want to
some backside help for Detroit. No, I'm kidding. Anywho.
Oh my god. Okay, Ricky, I'm not putting that.
No, not that one. Leave that one. Leave it alone. Leave that one alone. No.
Yeah,
I do want to transition.
Please do.
A topic. The next topic on the podcast. I wanted to ask both of you guys. I feel like we're probably going to have different answers. Who do you think will make the biggest jump this season?
I alluded to it earlier, but I really think we still haven't even seen the true potential of what Asar Thompson can be as a player. And I think he's a lot closer to his brother Ahmed than a lot of people give him credit for. Again, the additional muscle on top of his speed and just overall athleticism is just going to make him an absolute problem to deal with. He already was all NBA level defensive talent. Now to be able to be on leash 30 plus minutes a night, because you got to think he's going to have no restrictions this season. That's just something that's going to be massive as well. And even if he can just, I'm not even saying become a good jump shooter, but like get to the point where teams just can't guard him from the free throw line, which by the way, he's still found ways to be effective when that's been the case, which that just speaks to how good of a player he is. But, if he can just get to the point where, he can be effective from the mid-range and, occasionally hit some threes, like that is a, like borderline all-star if he pieces, a lot of the things together. And like someone who I wouldn't be surprised if he won Defensive Player of the Year at some point, barring like a Wemby injury or something like that. But again, he's just, and not that these guys aren't going to make massive jumps. I actually, I really paused and almost said Jalen Duren just because I think he's starting to realize what he can do with his athletic gifts. But I really think like the fact that that Asar can go full fledged. And by the way, like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be like his first full regular training camp too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, there's something to be said about that. Like, I don't even if he was like there for the Monty Williams training camp, can you even really count that based off of how that season went and everything we know?
No, not
fair, son. I tried to answer this question based on opportunity as well. I'm obviously huge on Jaden Ivey. I think he can kind of snap back into the form that we saw last season. I think he's going to be a huge piece for the Pistons. Duren as well. I think Asar's a great answer, obviously. I'm going to go with Ron Holland, though. I think Ron has a really big opportunity to make a big jump because I think the bench unit, I think they're going to need a lot of that assistance. Again, I like Duncan Robinson. I like Karis LeVert. How impactful they can be, I think, is kind of a question for me. And knowing that Ron Holland has kind of taken a bit of a leap, not a leap, but he's made improvements in terms of his weight. We've seen him post on Instagram. He put up that he added 15 pounds. I talked to his dad during summer league, and he said he worked out a lot during the offseason and has been focused on that. And I think a lot of what we saw during summer league could translate off the bench to what this Pistons team needs. We saw him slash with the ball very well. Felt comfortable with his jump shot, looked really promising. Saw some playmaking from him too that looked really good that I was liking a lot. Drawing extra attention, finding a quick dump off to a cutter or to a shooter. I really like seeing that from him. And obviously I think his defensive prowess is very impressive as well. To me, I think the separator for me is I don't know how confident Asar is going to be in terms of his offensive output as a shooter or a scorer. Granted, I don't think he needs to be a 15 to 20 point scorer for the Pistons to find him beneficial. I just feel like since Ron seems a little bit more comfortable with that already while having some defensive intensity to him as well, I just feel like we're going to see a lot of that growth pretty quickly from him coming off the bench, learning from the guys next to him, being able to play with the starters as well, and still be that energy and spark plug guy that the dog pound takes so much pride in. So I really like what Ron could do this season. I'm excited to see what he can do in his second year.
I do like that answer.
So I'm going to give an honorable mention to Jaden Ivey because I think he will have a bounce back season. Looked really good. Dunking in the little basketball camp that he hosted last week.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Jalen Duren with this one. I think I'm really buying the jump shot. He's working with the guard whisperer who also trains Evan Mobley, who's really developed his jump shot as well.
Okay, let's just be clear. Hold on. Are we talking, Are you buying his mid-range jump shot?
Mid-range,
okay.
Not three.
Okay.
I want to set expectations.
Okay. So I think we're going to start to see a good 10 to 12 foot jump shot from Jalen Duren routinely this year. And I think it's going to not only open up his game, but it's going to open up Asar's game. It'll open up Kate Cunningham's game. Everyone else kind of, just develop like a Bam Adebayo jumper, if you will. I think the defense, to me, if he's going to lock in like he did the second half of the season, I think, to me, he could be one of the most impactful players this year to take a jump. I feel like Asar, I think a lot of people are really expecting big things, or expecting him to take a huge leap this season, having his first full training camp, not having to deal with blood clots or Monty Williams, like Sean did mention. And then what you said, Eric, I agree with. Well, I think when you look at this young core, there's so many young players on this list that you could mention. Like I love the Ron pick. Honestly think Ron Holland's name is going to be in most improved player of the year conversations. I just see it that way because I think the way that he produced in summer league has me feeling very confident and very high on not only his ability to shoot the basketball. If you noticed, like his feet were very square in the summer league games. And if you go back and watch some regular season games, his landing is like kind of all over the place. You can really tell that he's been spending a lot of time with Fred Vincent. The playmaking, the defense. I mean, averaging 4 steals a game. I don't care if it's G League, Summer League. 4 steals a game is 4 steals a game. That's really impressive. But I think all of our answers. It wouldn't surprise me if Asar took a leap and averaged like 14 points a game. Wouldn't surprise me. Second half of the season, maybe Ron's jump shot is a little bit more consistent, and JB kind of relies on him a little bit more. It wouldn't surprise me if Jalen Duren just got better defensively, timing, and developed a pretty good 10 to 15 foot jump shot.
Yeah, and I think before Ivey's campaign was cut short due to the injury, we were already seeing him already taking a lot of those, a lot of that leap. So I think that's why it's kind of hard to really say, especially just coming off of injury. You expect at least some rust at the beginning. At least I would expect some rust in the beginning. But I think the question for me with Jaden Ivey is just like, does he separate himself and become like? Can you get, I don't want to set like the bar too high for him, but like, can he get more to like a Darius Garland level where he's like all-star caliber, where we're talking, about him among like one of the better guards in the league? Or is he like Colin Sexton level where it's like, that's still a good guard to have, but very different stratosphere as far as, like pay grade, as far as, role on the team as far as, just longevity, all those different things. I think obviously we all know the upside that's there with the Jaden Ivey. I just think the thing that's that's just so fascinating about guys like, like Asar and guys like Duran is like they've already been able to make a lot of an impact without a lot of their basketball skills even being fully polished out. Like Duran's just like he came in with a freaking Bam Adebayo body at like 18, 19 years old,
right?
Yeah.
And is still figuring out how to play defense and how to, like contribute consistently, but it's still been pretty solid, especially for his age. Ivy came in and, had a lot of, had a lot of strengths in his game and a lot of things already figured out. It's just, how do you, how do you translate that to the NBA level and make it work? So, again, there's not really a wrong answer to me here because ultimately time will just tell. But again, like it's going to be fascinating to see like what these players did with this summer and, how they look compared to how we saw them last time.
I think last time I was here, we talked about, I think like the last few pieces that would be added to the roster. I think I'm kind of coming along with what you said, Anthony, of them kind of needing another backup point guard, because I feel like if what Sean said is true, if there is a little bit of rust, which I think is justifiable, coming off an injury where he hasn't played, full NBA basketball since the top of January or the end of January. I forgot which one it was. But if that's
January
the case,
4th or January 3rd,
yeah, right. Yep. Very top of the year. Yeah. So if that's the case, then he's going to need to have a little bit of support next to him. And I think having another veteran point guard to where he can bring the ball up on occasion, but not have to be the full-time guy when Cade sits down, I think that might add a little bit of, stability and aid to his development and to, knocking off that early rust coming back to the season. I feel like, if he has to be the guy to set up everything and he feels a little overpressured to, prove that he's 100% or, test out that ankle or test out the foot or the knee or whatever, I feel like it maybe could put a little bit of extra pressure on him to have that. I think that balance will be a little bit necessary to kind of hone out for the bench, because I don't know if, like, again, I like Marcus Sasser, but I don't know if that's the best ingredient that they need based on what we just saw with Dennis Schroeder and the success that he brought in the backup point guard role for the Pistons. So, again, I'm not sure how many are available at this point. Like Spencer Dinwiddie went to Charlotte. I thought that would have been a good pickup for him over the offseason. But yeah, I do think they need to look for somebody else to kind of help out that backcourt off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been a talking point that I've been discussing like all summer. I'm just pulling up the available point guards, and I doubt it's any names that like you would even want to entertain. Let's just see the UFAs. So what do they even have available? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bleak, you guys. I don't even know.
The best available is Russell Westbrook.
Malcolm Brogdon. Yeah, it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt you want to roll it with Corey Joseph again. I just don't. I mean, Gary Payton can't stay healthy. He's 33, which that's crazy. I'm just getting old. I remember when Gary Payton got drafted, he was pretty young. Monte Morris.
Wow.
Morris, maybe you want to kind of roll it back with him. I felt like he didn't get a fair shake just because of the injury. Maybe you kind of look at him as a backup. I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys that I'm looking at that I think that kind of check every box that JB and Trajan are looking for, like high character guys that can come in that can contribute but not take away from the young guys. Like you're probably not bringing in Westbrook. I think he's going to be going to Sacramento, assuming they can get rid of Malik Monk somehow. Malcolm Brogdon, I would be open to. He was a guy that I was kind of looking at last year, but I don't really know where he wants to go. I don't know if he's kind of waiting for the market. Maybe he's waiting for where Westbrook goes, because maybe he wants to go to Sacramento. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. Maybe you kind of give Donis Jenkins a look if he has a good camp, has a good preseason. Like I really like the way that, he orchestrated the offense in the summer league. I love his pace. I feel like he does a better job of just setting stuff up initially, but I don't really know how the front office views him long term. Obviously, he re-signed a two-way contract for the remainder of the season, but it's pretty bleak, in my opinion, for the backup point guard market and the free agency.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to go out and acquire a guard in this market, I just don't think you're going to get anyone that you're going to be jumping for joy about. And that's why I think this is kind of an opportunity for, kind of like you said with Marcus Sasser. Like if you look at his contract, this salary this season is about 2.9 million. The next year it's 5. So this is the prove it year for Sass. Like, like if he doesn't put it together this year and doesn't show that he's worth, that jump in salary, then he's going to be somewhere else, or he's going to be, like on the free agency market. They won't even pick up the contract. Whereas with, and if it doesn't work out with Sasser, I do think, especially like Detroit clearly really likes Stannis Jenkins. They actually just re-signed him, and extended his 2-way contract, stay with Detroit. And with how well he played in summer league, I would wager the gap isn't very wide between him and Marcus Sasser right now. I would say it's probably, especially from like the perspective of playing point guard and running an offense. Like if we're just going off of scoring and all of those things, Sasser's definitely the better player. But that's the biggest problem with where Sasser's at, is at his best, he's an off-ball guard. But in Detroit, they need him to not be an off-ball guard. They need him to be a point guard, and that's just not been who he is.
Yeah, I mean, you have way too many shooting guards above him in the rotation that JB's probably going to lean heavily on, like Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert. I never really understood why the Pistons went and traded up for Marcus Sasser in the first place. I thought they needed more wings, in my personal opinion. There's no denying his talent. Like he's a bucket getter. Like he reminds me a lot of like a Bones Highland type. Like just be that spark plug off the bench. I don't really know if he's going to be like deep in the rotation with JB. It seems like JB only really played them when the Pistons were getting their ass kicked and he needed some sort of offense out there, or there were just injuries. Like Jaden Ivey got hurt, and he barely even got minutes there. It seems
the few nights when Cade was out.
Yeah, it's like if the Pistons don't really know what to do with him, I think it would be best for both parties to try to find a team that would be willing to maybe trade for him and find him a new opportunity, because he's just kind of rotting away on the bench, in my personal opinion. Like if you don't really feel that, 3-4 years from now he's going to be on the roster, you might as well just try to trade for maybe a backup point guard that you feel more comfortable with, because right now they're just kind of wasting his talents, in my opinion.
I think this could open it up an opportunity for somebody that we saw play a lot of off-ball reps. Not a lot, but towards the end of the season, he was getting a lot more and more. I think this could open a window for Asar to maybe look at, developing in that role. There was a lot of times where he was bringing the ball up, where Cade was getting blitzed before half court, so they let him bring the ball up instead. And, who knows, maybe he, tries out with the second unit and he's the one that's bringing ball up and initiating. We already know he's got great vision to him. I love watching that pass back. I think he had against the Jazz, the no-looker to Cade for the dunk. Yeah. The upside is for sure there. Again, it's going to be a lot on his plate for sure, coming this offseason. But, if Asar is the guy that we think he is, I think, he could be able to step up and kind of take those reins. But, yeah, I think the opportunity would be there for him to maybe, become that guy for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted a backup point guard from Houston, you took the wrong one. It's Jamal Shved that you wanted if you're looking for a backup point guard who's in Toronto. Like he was more of the player in Houston that was setting stuff up. Sasser was more of just kind of like that off guard, but they did, share roles. But I don't really know what's going to happen with him. I'm glad you brought that up, Eric. I'm not really sure what his future holds, but I mean, if it was me, if I was a general manager, I would look to find him somewhere to go, but I'm going to need something in return. But
yeah, he's got value for sure.
I think with his salary, I think, I wouldn't be surprised because I do think Detroit is a prime, like Brian Windhorst brought up, and I know this is a topic at some point, but like, I do think like Detroit will make a move at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, because he's prime candidate to be packaged in that deal with his salary.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's a young, intriguing player that's still on a rookie deal that is really cheap. And I think the production you get, you're not going to find someone like that in free agency this year, maybe next year, but I've been really
not Trajan's picked. So no attachment from the organization at that point.
True.
Not even his coach.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even like Marcus doesn't even really seem like a Trajan player that he would draft. Not saying like he's not high character or anything like that. Just like kind of the archetype that we've seen him draft, like Bobby Klipman, Ron Holland, Chaz Lanier, like even some of the undrafted guys that we saw, like Dawson Garcia, who maybe low key. Like I'm really gonna be interested to see if he's on the training camp roster, because he could be like a low end stretch for the Pistons. If they're just gonna be cheap and not sign anybody, maybe, but who knows?
Loves his length, that Trajan Langdon.
Sean, you're gonna get away with so many tonight. You're just on one, man.
You know what? I didn't even piece together where that could have gone. We're just gonna move on.
Okay, we'll move on to the next topic. I believe this was one of the conversations you wanted to discuss, Eric. Who do you think is going to be the most important veteran this upcoming season? Since it's your topic, Eric, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Tobias. I still think Tobias has a lot of important influence this season. Again, I love that he was able to kind of rewrite his name last year. You know, a lot of slander he took the offseason before, people, you know, criticizing the Pistons, saying they were going to overpay for him. And then he ended up being, I think, one of the better, you know, value signings of last season, him and Beasley. So I think he still can be very productive and helpful for the Pistons, especially since they didn't really add another stretch four. The opportunity is going to be there for him to, you know, still be one of the more important players on the roster. We saw his game evolve a little bit as being a little less of just a spot-up shooter alone. He posted up a whole lot more, you know, towards the end of the season, was really comfortable getting looks, you know, at the rim. And they found positions to post him against smaller opponents as well, which really worked out in his favor. So I still think looking at this front court, you know, they don't really have a lot of consistent offense on their own. He's one of the few guys that can really go get his own bucket. Like, that's not really Duren's game. That's not really Asar's game for right now. And we'll see what Ron and the other guys off the bench can do. But I still think there's a lot of value in what Tobias is going to bring to this team. Obviously, his leadership, you know, speaks a lot for itself. Even Cade really talked about it because, you know, he's always looked at as, you know, the face of the franchise and the voice that they lean on the most. But he said that a lot that he's leaned on a lot of his learning from Tobias in preparation of the playoffs, you know, how to stay healthy, how to take care of his body. And I feel like a lot of that really translated to when the Pistons got into the postseason as well. So I'm really high on what Tobias can bring for this team. I don't think he'll be gone after this year. I think he'll find a way to stay around for a little bit longer just for the value that he's brought thus far. And I don't know. I just feel like he's probably going to be the most important vet that they have on the team this year.
Yeah, I personally think, you know, Tobias, he's the most consistent, you know, like player on the team. He's the most reliable, you know, as far as like knowing what you're getting each and every day as a person and as a player on the court. Like, he is, you know, just really reliable. I think the most important veteran, you know, as far as who's going to be, you know, like one of the players is going to have to like perform in order for this Pistons team to like be what we think they can be, based off of how it's constructed and based off of like what pressure is being put on them. I think it's Karis LeVert. I think, like we just talked about, how there's not a lot of, you know, like, you know, not a lot of depth in the guard position right now. They're making a bet that Karis LeVert can run that second unit offense and be, you know, like have significant minutes where he's handling the ball and being a facilitator. Like, on top of, you know, a lot of the off the court things with what Malik Beasley brought with his vibes and leadership, which I think a guy like Duncan Robinson can really help with, like the leadership standpoint. A lot of guys really like him as well. I remember Cole Swider just, you know, like raving about him at Motor City Cruise Media Day last year. But like for, you know, like for Karis LeVert, like he was kind of their big last second pivot from Malik Beasley. And, you know, he's someone who is kind of bounced around, you know, to like a few different locations, not really to the fault of his own in certain circumstances. And, you know, he's a quality player, but like sometimes it's just been health, sometimes it's just been fit, and just kind of, you know, like where he is in the overall scheme of the team. But like, I just, if this Pistons team, like, obviously I think like a lot of us know, like it's going to come down to, you know, mainly like these young players are going to, you know, deliver the Pistons to where they need to go. But based off of like what they're being asked to do, like Karis LeVert to me is like inarguably like one of the biggest X factors for the Pistons this year, especially towards the beginning of the season, assuming this team like mostly stays intact as is.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of you guys have the correct answer. But the Tobias thing, like if they don't address a backup four and he gets injured, you're like, ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, because like when he was on the bench towards the end of the year, you saw his impact on the glass, the rebounding. Like that team just did not know how to rebound without him out there.
Yep.
And just the veteran leadership that he brings that we don't get to see as fans in the locker room. I know you guys get to interview these players when you go down. Like me as a fan, I don't get to see like kind of the impact he has on the young players, shoot around practices, anything like that. But you just hear so many positive things about him as a human being and a player off the court with the young guys. And Sean, well, like what you said about Karis LeVert, I think is also correct because he is so versatile as a basketball player. He's much different than a Tim Hardaway Jr., the way that they plan on using him. And Trajan kind of touched on it this summer that they could possibly see him have lead guard reps, kind of sharing the backup point guard responsibilities with Jaden Ivey. Yep. I think this is really huge for Karis because, one, he's already played for JB Bickerstaff. He's familiar with what's expected out of him. And two, it's the health thing. Because if he gets injured, then you're kind of like, shit. Like, what do we do now? Like, we still have Duncan. Is Chaz ready to, get rotational minutes? We don't know yet. We're going to have to see how he looks in the preseason and have it if he has a good camp or not. But, I mean, I feel like both of those guys are so important to this team if they really want to go far, not only in the Eastern Conference seeding, but in the playoffs. Like, you need healthy seasons from both of these guys. We know Tobias is pretty consistently healthy, but Karis has had his injury histories in the past, but as of late, he's been somewhat healthy. I'd like to assume that the Pistons medical staff did a pretty good job of keeping these guys right. And I think Tobias Harris is a big reason for that because he's teaching everyone in the locker room, how to, rest your body on off days and stuff like that we hear from the rookies and the younger guys on this roster. But I think both of those answers are correct. I think Duncan is also going to be an important piece, not only for the fact that you got a motion shooter now that I think is going to be a very underrated player. But I mean, never really know. Like, he's not on a fully guaranteed deal. It's just guaranteed the first year. Like, who really knows? Like, if he doesn't play up to standard, I mean, the Pistons could possibly cut him in it maybe next year or the year after. It kind of depends. But I mean, I think all three of these vets, even Paul Reed, I think is an important piece as well. Like, if there's an injury at the backup center spot, I feel like he's a really big, important piece. And all these vets on this team, who knows? We might actually add two more vets with the final two roster spots as, backup point guard, backup power forward. Who knows what they're going to really address? I feel like Trajan's waiting for something. I just don't know what the hell it is. I feel like he's waiting to pounce. He seems like one of those GMs where he's just laying back and chilling. He's keeping an eye on everybody. Maybe he's waiting for someone to get cut from a training camp roster that he has his eyes on, or just wait to pounce last minute.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said about like a lot of moves happen, like right before training camp, like even big ones. A lot of times this is just kind of the slow time of year. And there's also just something to be said, quite frankly, of each day you don't have someone on the roster is another day that you don't have to give them a paycheck at the moment. So, like waiting until closer to the season. And also, like, let's be honest, like waiting to see what happens. Like if there's any revelation with the Malik Beasley thing, and if you can bring him back into the fold somehow, like I do think that is something that they're at least I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that like they're at least keeping an eye on it. And like, I wouldn't be surprised, if like they're trying to see what happens there, because he was, like if you look at because another thing too is if you look at the box scores from last year, if you just look like per game, like Malik Beasley after Ivy went out, like he was our second leading scorer. And if you look at our second unit, like he wasn't just the number one option on our second unit, like he was our second unit scoring a lot of nights predominantly. And so like that's why like Karis, like he's stepping into where, like essentially like when it comes to the second unit, he's probably going to be the second unit's like first or second option. Like they're going to be staggering Ivy and Cade a lot, I'd imagine, as they did last year. So Ivy will still have a lot of touches as well. But like, like Karis is like big shoes that he's filling in that regard. But like one last thing I want to just say about Tobias, just to kind of speak on to, like the things that you don't necessarily see like behind closed doors. Like, even though like we're not in the locker room, like there's added context beyond just reading the quotes on Twitter. Like whenever you're at like a lot of times whenever guys have been asked about Tobias Harris and what he means to them and to the team. I just remember Cade just going like pausing and just going, man, and like just like almost like getting emotional. But like you can just see tangibly the impact. Like there's a power to even like obviously he goes on and gives this great quote and compliment about how great of a leader in that, but like there's something to be said about what they don't say and like what they convey physically. You can just see tangibly just the amount that they respect and revere and just look up to a guy like that. Like you can just you can just see visually how much of an impact he's had on that team.
Yeah, and stretch fours aren't easy to like locate or replace in the NBA either. I mean, even for a guy like Tobias, who a lot of people wrote off, again, he was able to come back and be super impactful on offense and play some of the best defense he's played in his entire career. The rebounding, I'm glad you brought that up because when he was hurt and they couldn't sniff a rebound and just letting teams just crash the glass for offensive rebounds, it was painful watching that on a consistent basis. So Tobias I think still has a ton of value for this team that they can really lean on over the foreseeable future. Also, you spoke a little bit on Duncan Robinson. I think his ability will be able to translate very well based on the way he played off of Bam Adebayo in Miami. Obviously he's not a great defender, but offensively, I think he'll do a really good job of obviously as a motion shooter, but also, being able to set balls or set off screen or off ball screens, excuse me, good Lord, being able to set off ball screens for the Pistons and teaching that to the young guys as well. Like Rod Holland, I think that'll be, very impactful for them to, show and do on the court, while they're there. That just screwed up my whole mind thought. I'm just chill on this one.
Yeah, I was gonna
say sit for 10 seconds.
I was gonna say with the amount of times that this pod's gone off rails, it's kind of remarkable how on top
really
we
bad.
have been.
Yeah. Sorry, Anthony. Hey, we never come back again. We know why. I'm sorry, man.
No, he knew it. Hey, he knew exactly what he was getting when he invited this trio on. Like when he put this together, this was known.
This was bound to happen. Someone was going to say pause. That's what she said. StreamYard was going to fuck up because it always does.
Yep. Exactly.
Things are going to happen. Nothing's perfect, but hey, man, we make do over here. Like honestly, I think everything you guys said was right in the nose. I think these vets are so important. Obviously, this team's going to be drastically different, and I think some people just look at the depth chart and this team on paper isn't the same as it was last year. Some people feel like this team got worse. I think they got more versatile. I think they're taller.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a little bit more difficult to game plan with. I mean, there's over-unders right now that are 45.5. Like I said recently, I think this is a 50-win basketball team, if they're healthy. Like I honestly think everyone's going to take a step of progression. You don't have to deal with a brand new coach. You're getting more familiar with what JB Bickerstaff and this.
You have to learn new terminology, another system.
No, you don't have to sit in a press conference of some guy crying or I took it for the money. Like you have someone that actually wants to be here. And I think a lot of Detroit Pistons fans, like they would run through a brick wall for JB Bickerstaff. We've seen a lot of his personality this offseason, whether it was taking jabs at Stephen A. Smith or just going on podcasts, the Chris Vernon show, saying like, we're looking to kick your ass. Like, I love that as a Piston fan. Like, and I'm sure you guys as like media, when you get those sound clips, like I know Eric, you got a bunch of viral moments, especially when you asked JB about like the free throw discrepancy with like, I think it was the SGA one when they played OKC.
Yeah, the officiating game.
I don't even know, man. Like it feels like I'm here for crash out JB and crash out Rod and Stu. Like I love when they crash out because it's just entertaining for me as a fan.
Yeah, they talked a lot about it in the offseason. Like these players, a lot of them haven't had any of that real stability. So now to, have the second year learning under JB, bringing in Karras, who's well familiar with JB as a coach. This is huge for them. I think it's very important for him. I'm really excited to ask him about his media run that he did over the summer. It's really been cool watching him. I love just listening to him talk basketball in general. Like you could tell, like for some guys, like in football, like you listen to Dan Campbell, a lot of the quotes he has, not really football centric. It's more so of like the hoorah type of quotes, but listening to JB, I love listening to him talk about X's and O's. And even if it's not about the Pistons, like when he was going in on ESPN talking about the playoffs and what was going on, it was really insightful and fun listening to him talk about that perspective and kind of give that intelligent viewpoint from the Pistons side as well. And then obviously the Summer League said, we want to kick your ass and, we're trying to set the foundation. I think the foundation is here. I think the guys have fully bought in. And, it's really going to be cool to see them take that, step together next season.
It's leaked over when the Summer League rosters trying to fight other Summer League rosters.
Right.
They were crashing out. There was I don't know if it was the Spurs. I can't remember what team it was, but they were kicking their ass. And one of our players just laid out another player. And I was like, man, we're literally just messing up their mental approach to a game, and these guys aren't even on the main roster. Ron and Donis, none of those guys were playing. It's just kind of funny how you see it.
Honestly, that's one of the things I said during Summer League was one of the things I think you see when a team actually has a culture is when the Summer League roster is able to embody it, because it's that easy to understand. Even Oklahoma City, even their Summer League roster, no chance in hell any of those guys are playing on the team next year. But they all did the post-game interview, huddling together, Detroit, they played very Pistons branded basketball, good organizations. Their culture leaks through even in Summer League. And I think, for the first time in a while, the Pistons have continuity that they're actually excited about and they can build off of. And there's momentum heading in the right direction. And so the hope is just that nothing catastrophic comes along the way to mess that up.
It was really cool during Summer League when Isaiah was talking to JB, and he was talking about the Detroit versus everybody mentality, and he obviously sees that. And I just think it's so cool that through all of the winning tenures of the Pistons, they all have really had a Detroit versus everybody mentality back before it was even a thing. The Bad Boys was Detroit versus everybody. 04 was Detroit versus everybody. They were the disruptors of the league that weren't supposed to be where they were. And I think you can even look at this team now. The Pistons were way better than people expected last season. They play way more physical than people anticipated. And I don't think they're going anywhere based on what that identity has been set for. So it's been really cool to kind of see that legacy get passed down, and they take pride in it too. I love seeing that from this team.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, by the way, Tim Hardaway Jr. is one of the big reasons why Karis LeVert is in Detroit. Karis said, he called Tim and asked him about his experience in Detroit, and Tim, who was not re-signed, who went to another team, who Detroit, from what it sounds, didn't really have super significant dialogue with him this summer. He had nothing but glowing things to say about the team, the organization, and, just everything that they have going on, which it says a lot when teams who aren't even a part of the organization anymore, who could, talk bitter ex-girlfriends. We saw Miles Turner talk about the Pacers, kind of in a weird way, the fact that Tim Hardaway's oh yeah, it was great. I love my time. Those guys are great. Go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny to mention Tim Hardaway. I was scrolling on LinkedIn, and one of these Pistons sales reps hey, you want to sit in the same seat that Tim Hardaway Sr. sat in? Call me now. And I was yeah, because I have the money to sit in the first row seat by the bench, my guy. But I thought the post was funny. Glad you brought that up, Sean. That Tim really didn't have to do that. He could have just said, I don't know, man. Find out for yourself. But
do what's best for you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he did a podcast with really random podcast.
Young Man in the Three. It was with it was with Tommy Alter, who it was JJ Redick's old pod, and Cam Johnson. He's a regular contributor. So since they're teammates, I think that's where the connection comes in.
That just tells me Cam Johnson wants to be a Piston so bad because he can't stop talking about him.
I was advocating for it. I've been saying it for years. I'm mad they didn't pull the trigger, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, 1 week into Michael Porter Jr. being the net, they found a bunch of low-key stuff about him. People in Brooklyn aren't searching basketball. They're searching just random dark web shit about their players, man. Man, times are tough.
It's August. Can you tell?
Yeah, I can honestly tell. We got one more topic on the podcast, and this was actually a topic Sean wanted to talk about, which I thought was a really good topic by both of you guys. You guys are doing a better job than me.
It's like I also have a podcast or something.
It's almost like Sean from Half Court's on this podcast. So your topic was more of a Brian Windhorst thing that he said on his podcast that the Pistons could look to make a mid-season upgrade. So I'll kind of change the question this way for you guys. What do you kind of think a mid-season upgrade may be? Is it a certain skill type you think the Pistons are looking for that they currently don't have? Or maybe it's a position you think that they're a little weak at in terms of the depth chart?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on obviously how they do throughout the season, but I think, like at the very least, we know that they have a trade exception to their disposal. We know that that there's real opportunities, for them to maneuver the roster. I think just based off of the types of players that Trajan's added, I wouldn't be surprised if it's yet another wing, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's another like 3-and-D specialist. To me, like when I look at players that I'm just interested to see what happens, like a personal, like I know he's a guy that's been popular in like the Pistons Twitter sphere as well, but PJ Washington with Dallas, going like Cooper Flagg being drafted there. I know, they love him in Dallas, but like there's the real question of how they fit alongside each other. And, like depending on how that goes in Dallas this season, that they could potentially look to alter how that roster is shaped. And so that wouldn't particularly surprise me if like that came up as, like a potential option. I think someone in that like type of vein is, I think, who they're going to look for, like just like a dependable, like veteran who can give you quality spacing and, like quality play on both levels. Someone that, like can start if you need him to, but also you can bring off the bench and, like there's maneuverability with it. I don't think they're necessarily, like they could go out and get a big name for all we know this year. I just, based off of what we know about Trajan and just the way he likes to play things, like I don't think he's not rushing anything. So I think like he's just looking to like bolster depth and just continue to take incremental steps. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, PJ Washington was a name that I had on one of my targets as well. I think Trajan is very intentional. Even when Ivy went down, obviously he made it very clear that they were trying to add a point guard. Even before the season started, they were talking to Tyus Jones and looking at other backup point guards that they could bring into the fold to help out with their depth. And I still think that's what the plan is for them. Again, I agree with Sean. I don't think they're going to rush anything or crash out for, the first big name that they see or, anything like that. I feel like he wants to be very intentional and patient with the development of this team. And I feel like they do have the affordability to do that. I feel like there's a lot of teams that could have some guys potentially on the move. I feel like teams like New Orleans, a lot of the bottom feeders on both conferences side, I feel like they're going to have pieces that they could have available as soon as the trade deadline. And like Winnie said, I do expect the Pistons to be active. I feel like they understand how important, like Trajan talked about it after the season. He says he understands how important and how big it was that they did make the playoffs, ahead of schedule to the public. They believe they could do it, which is awesome. So to kind of know that they were able to get to that point and they don't really want to take a step back, I think he understands that. And I think he knows that making that perfect pick is going to be very, very vital in terms of how they progress. Again, not just for this upcoming season. He said he wants to build this thing up for the next 5 to 10 years. So I, expect him to be very intentional. I think he's looking at certain positions that make the most sense. Stretch fours, wings. He puts a lot of value in that in off seasons all the time with his drafting, free agency. So I expect him to kind of have that same mindset in terms of the trade deadline because it's going to be a big period when it comes up for the Pistons.
Let me ask you guys this. Let's say Pistons are top 4 in the East, like right before the deadline. Mm-hmm. You think they push all their chips in to try to, challenge the New Yorks, the Clevelands, the Orlandos, saying that's how the East goes? Do you think they try to push their chips in if they're a top 4 team versus maybe, let's say they're like an 8 seed and, they have injuries? Do you think they still go all in, or do you think they would kind of just tread carefully and still try to evaluate the team for the remainder of the season?
I'm going to guess he would still take the baby steps and just lean on the young guys. I feel like knowing that they were able to, stay toe-to-toe with the Knicks last season in the playoffs, like if they got waxed in 5 games, like I don't think people would be surprised. They'd be like, all right, they're battle-tested. They have stars. Brunson's an ascending player. It is what it is. And I don't think people will be too upset. I think fans would just be happy that they were able to get into the playoffs. But the fact that they were able to take that step, I mean, you could argue even that would be a reason to make that cash in. But again, the fact that the young players were able to do so much in keeping them competitive. It's not like Tobias was averaging 25 or Beasley was carrying the water to score. Every young player stepped up. There's no one player in the young core that the Pistons are waiting for them to develop. And okay, let's catch on. Come on, Ivy, or come on, Asar. The fact that everybody took a step forward, I think gives him the credence and the reason to want to take their time. And I feel like that's the way he's looking at it personally.
Yeah. And I also just, just looking at Keith Smith, who's a really good, like cap, like he's like the cap goat of like basketball Twitter, but also just a really good reporter. And the summer league intel dump that he did a couple of weeks ago is just absolute gold. And like just a lot of good stuff in there. Like one of the things was how just about every single team brought up the second apron and like their fears. One GM in the Eastern Conference said, we're never going to be in the second apron. That is just something we are never going to do. But like with like when it comes to the Pistons, a quote that I just found really interesting and, in there, like pertaining to this conversation, it was actually, a part of his intel, like on extension talks with Ivy and Duran. But like in the quote, it says, we're not the cap space Pistons anymore. We're the playoff Pistons now.
Right.
If we want to keep being the playoff Pistons, we need to be really smart from here on out. That means finding the right deal for us and for our players. And so like, that's why, like, I think this is just this is like the most cap conscious front office that we've ever had. And that's before all of the strict cap rules that are in the league right now.
I want to say that reads like an Arn Tellem quote, like straight up in my head. Like if you would have told me like, okay, who said this? That sounds like an Arn Tellem quote if I've ever heard one before. But I'm glad you brought that up because like in that same article, they said we feel pretty confident that we can get extensions done with not only Jalen Durham but also Jaden Ivey, that we can get a deal done, which I think kind of just points to what the Pistons are trying to do long term of keeping the core together, kind of having that Oklahoma City Thunder approach of drafting well and keeping the core intact. But this is a really good question because I don't really know what direction they're going to go in. I'm with you. I've kind of looked at PJ Washington being on an expiring contract. He fits right into that exception if they want to do it that way. But I think if you kind of look at the contracts that they gave out, there's a lot of stackable contracts. Like, Tobias isn't expiring. Karis LeVert can get you to that 40, 50 million point. Like you could possibly be a player for maybe a Lauri Markkanen. Maybe you feel like you're a Lauri Markkanen away of, kind of upgrading the roster. You kind of look at the contracts that they have, like they can actually go like big fish hunting and, go after guys that are making $40, $50 million contracts if they feel that's what the Pistons are kind of missing on their roster. I know a big move is coming. I just don't think it's going to be as big as like the last big move they made. I don't think it's going to be a Blake Griffin-esque, but I think it will be a marginal move that does help them not only win a playoff series, but possibly get them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that's how like positively I think about this front office and the way they've positioned themselves and all the contracts they've given out. You guys are very short-term money. They're not committing long-term to anybody outside of really Cade and Isaiah Stewart on this roster. So I think they're setting themselves up to really make that next big move.
Yep. They're setting themselves up to be able to maneuver with their roster while being able to sign their players to extensions that they have. And like, because again, it's important to keep in mind, like this is before the Asar Thompson contract, like extension talks, where I think like Duren and Ivy, like I think it's going to be interesting to see, and there's like a lot of debate on what those numbers could look like. If I'm being honest, if Asar comes out and plays the way that we think he can, there's not going to be a lot of debate. It's just going to be give him as much money as you're allowed to, and then put pen to paper and let it dry.
I just want to, I'm hoping whatever the move makes or whenever the move is made and whenever it's made, hopefully it's in response to the necessity of just needing to fill a hole instead of replacing an injury. Because the most important thing for them to do, while yes, they could add a few more pieces and, make one of those splashes, but the most important thing that they need is that core has to play at least 60 plus games together. That has to happen this season. They don't I don't want to see any of those guys go down where they're, watching the street clothes in the playoffs like Ivy and Stewart had to do. Like they need them all to be healthy because they all fill different roles, which is why they're so important. It's not like you're seeing, a core of guys where they're meshing or not, they're not meshing and they can't really, find a vibe. Like Cade is obviously the focal point guy. Ivy has his lane. Asar has his lane. Duren has his lane. Like they all have their own specific, ways of contributing to this team, which is why it's going to be so important for them to stay healthy and play together and grow together. So hopefully they can make that decision and that move with a healthy roster intact next to them.
No question.
Yeah. I think we all agree that there will be a move. Just don't know like how big of a move it actually will be. I know some people have mentioned like don't want it to be like a Blake Griffin move where like they have to do that. One thing I'll say that is like Pistons have a franchise guy. They were trading for a franchise guy then. They had a bunch of like talent to try to get a franchise guy. They have that guy in Cade. So probably just
now if you are to make moves, it's to cater to that franchise guy. Like with what we saw with Milwaukee, like they go out and get Dame and go out and make the moves that they make because they want to keep their franchise guy. So if Detroit does ever make like a move out of desperation, it's because they're going to be desperate to keep Cade.
Right. Well, hopefully we're not in a Milwaukee situation because sounds like Giannis might leave even after waiving Damian Lillard. Like the amount of players that got waived this year, man, like good Lord.
Crazy.
The amount of like waving and stretching and just like blatant disregard for cap space and long-term, like I know flexibility isn't a sexy word, and I know you don't get banners for like solid cap, like solid salary cap books. You know what I'm saying? But like, there's something to be said about at least having a light at the end of the tunnel. And so many of these teams, it's like they dug the grave and parked the freaking, like the big bow or like whatever the hell would be the machine that would, I don't know, construction, man. Just like put a freaking bulldozer on there. Like that's what it's like.
Put a bulldozer on there. That's getting clipped.
Damn it, Anthony.
This is awesome. This has been a blast.
Oh man, this has been a fun podcast. You guys got time for maybe like one or two Q&A questions? I promise no bowl questions. They haven't come in yet, so we're good.
Yeah, that's why I throw my headset on. Russell Westbrook or Bowl, I'm out of here. You know my rule.
I had a question from TZ earlier. So can Asar shoot better than 20% from three with a full off season and best shooting coach in the league?
I mean, dear God, he better shoot better than 20%. Like if we're talking about like, like the questions a week, like we're talking about like he needs to get to, like 30%. And listen, he already was technically at 22% last year from three. So like he's already cleared this bar, but it's like for Asar, it's like, how do you get to where you're like actually respected, which is if you're going to be respected, that's going to be around like 33% and up. That's where teams have to start respecting you. Because when 1 out of 3 times they can guarantee you're going to make a three, that's when you can't just allow them to shoot them.
Respect is the key word. Like, he don't have to be a sniper. He don't have to hit 35 to 40%, but you have to be able to have the defense respect you. Again, I keep bringing this point up. I remember Draymond Green and the Warriors turning his back when Asar had a 3-point opportunity. I watched that happen. Like, that's YMCA basketball disrespect. If you see the shooter with your head, you say, "Oh, you shoot," and he just turns around, that's mad disrespectful to you. So yes, hopefully he can be able to shoot around 20, again, to a level of respect, whatever number that's going to be. And free throws should be a part of that as well, because like, we don't want Asar in a position where, like, I remember what's his name, Andre Roberson from the Thunder. He was a fantastic defender, but he couldn't stay on the floor because they were doing hack-a-shack to him, and he couldn't hit free throws and stay on the floor. I think Asar can do a little bit more, so where that's not a worry. But if teams wanted to lean and do that, that would be a thing if he's going to be shooting under 70% again. So it's going to have to be some kind of improvement on both of those areas for Asar. Like, I've seen a lot of people on social media saying things like, even if he doesn't become a respectable 3-point shooter, his ceiling is still here, or the Pistons can still be fine. I don't think so. I think he's going to have to be somewhat respectable. Again, whatever number that is from 3 or from distance, it's going to have to be something to tip the defense in terms of how they defend him, because it can't just constantly be, "Oh, you got the ball? Psh, we good." Like, that can't be their response when he has the ball on the perimeter.
It's the key to maximizing his potential. It just is.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've seen conversations with people, and I'll answer your question in a minute. But like, I don't really need him to develop a 3-point shot. If he just develops a tighter handle, he'd be unstoppable. I'll be like,
Thanks.
okay. Like, I honestly think, like, he could do both. He can develop a handle and become a better 3-point shooter. Can he shoot better than 20% this year? I would like to hope he can.
Right.
But, nothing's set in stone. I really don't know how confident he is as a jump shooter. It seemed a lot of times this year when he was open from 3, he would look and he's like, "I'm not going to shoot it. I'm just going to try to drive inside and get a layup." There was one game in particular where he missed 2 threes in a row, and K just kept passing him the ball because they were getting offensive rebounds. And Fred Vincent was the first one to mob him to the bench and just give him a high five and just give him that positive reinforcement. Like, I think if he develops a jump shot and becomes a 2-way player, like, yeah, we're talking about a different basketball player on this roster. But I hope he can. I don't really know if he can. I wish he had the confidence of Ron Holland of just letting that shit fly. Ron didn't give a shit last year. He didn't care if he went 0 for 10. He was going to shoot that 11th. Like, that's the type of confidence I want to see from Asar this year.
Yeah. And I think some of it too, like, I think some of those drives, like, I think were like he was able, like, a lot of times, like, when he's able to get to the basket, like, especially if, like, guys are trying to close out, like, they're not going to be able to catch up if they're running one direction at full speed and Asar's running the other direction past them at full speed. Like, they're not going to be able to do much about that. And so, again, like, if, can you get to 20%? Like, yeah, freaking better at that point. But like, there certainly is the infrastructure there for him to improve, and you got to imagine he's been working on it in the gym as well. Like, he's not he's not unaware of the fact that like, him being a 3-point shooter is going to be one of the big keys to him maximizing his potential.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to imagine that he's in the gym every day working on his 3-point shots with different trainers, Fred Vincent. Like, we saw what Ron was doing and how much better he looked. I mean, shot over 40% from 3 in the summer league. Granted, it was a summer league, but on 5 attempts a game, like, he looked really good out there. Looked really confident.
I don't know if it was you that posted it, Anthony, or whoever it was, but we saw Asar through the offseason working on jump shots and that, like, little reel or whatnot. And I'm sitting here thinking, please don't let this become the new Ben Simmons workout video. Like, please don't let this be the Andre Drummond 3-point workout video in the summer of, "Oh, it's going to turn around." And then the regular season gets here and it just doesn't translate at all. I don't want that to become a thing. Hopefully he can turn that around and become legit.
That's why I had to pause Anthony earlier when he was like talking about Jalen Duren shooting. I was like, no.
Right, that's why you took a timeout.
Hold on.
Hold on, let's make sure we're on the same page here.
Calling for this again. Right. Like, if anyone knows this phenomenon and knows it well, it's Anthony. So I need to make sure he ain't drinking that Kool-Aid again.
Yep.
Without the bowl running through the dishwasher. You know what I'm saying?
We saw it with Killian Hayes. We've seen it too many times. Just cannot keep repeating itself enough. Please.
I can't keep getting away with it.
It says something. I don't know if you guys saw it on NBA Twitter. It was like, I said something and I deleted it right away because Kevin O'Connor liked it. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get retweeted. But it was like, name an NBA player that reflects your dating life. And I quote tweeted, Killian Hayes working on his jump shot every year, but I never really work on my jump shot every year.
Oh, that's hilarious. No way you said that. You should have left that up. That's hilarious.
I deleted it because KLC liked it. I was like, fuck, he's going to retweet it.
Killian's going to get a burner account. Like, what you mean, huh? What you trying to say? That is so funny.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm just trying to think of who my player would be.
Yeah, I need an answer now. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, exactly. I keep coming back to Patrick Beverley, where it's like people have acknowledged his abilities before, but ultimately his phone isn't gonna get ringed anytime soon.
So you would have the all-time quotes like when someone gets broken up with, and you're like, well, it was your time for the last 5 years. These next 5 are mine, fucker.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have the quotes of like, I'd be the best dad of all time. When it's like, are you even going on dates right now? Irrelevant. Like,
oh man, I swear, NBA Twitter, like, it is toxic as shit. But like,
yes,
it is. I'm never deleting Twitter. I swear. I've seen so many posts this summer where like I saw one yesterday, and this will be the last like joke I ever tell on this podcast because it's really bad. It's nothing to do with basketball. This guy's just like gay. I can't believe spiders are gay, and he's like, well, how do you know he was gay? He's like, well, he came out of my closet. And I was just like, dog. I'm never deleting Twitter again.
Oh my gosh. That is insane. But honestly, it's like Twitter could be a very toxic space, but like NBA Twitter is like the one corner that can just keeps on giving. And like the memes are top notch, but also like the amount of like low key, like the fact that like all of that stuff in the Pablo Torre episode was just found in like the deep annals and corners of NBA Twitter, like that just speaks to like people don't recognize it, but it is a place that has a lot of things that go on. And man, just some of the conversations, the memes, the ratios, like it is like the fact that Kevin, like you never know, Kevin Durant could just randomly reply to your tweet someday. if you're talking about Kevin Durant, he'll reply to anyone.
Facts. Yeah, or get shit talked by a Piston player. It's like, whoa, okay, damn. Like you never really know. I don't even know why I started the chain. Ben said that his dating life is Malik Beasley because he keeps betting on the wrong broads. Or Organic Lindo. You're terrible, Organic.
Or he's not going to be able to date again because they're going to lock his ass up. Like, is that what you're saying? Although I'm saying, like, again, Malik Beasley, all the best. That's not a Beasley thing. That's a joke about the other guy.
And Stanley Johnson, because they always start off good and then they change after 3 months.
Hilarious. That's funny.
Like Stanley Johnson, like you see your life together and then you're actually in it. It's like, oh, this ain't what I signed up for.
Oh man, I actually got a funny story about a girl Stanley Johnson dated because one of my friends was a Pistons cheerleader, and she told me that she went out with like Stanley Johnson, Darren Hilliard. That's a throwback if you guys remember who that is.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
They were like all together, and she told me she's like I went to the bathroom and like all my money was gone, And I was like, oh, for real? She's like, yeah, the girl that Stanley Johnson was dating, she stole it. I was like, wow.
A bird. That is crazy. Stealing on the date is crazy.
She just left the first bird. She just went in there and took it. I was like, damn, what the hell, man? It's crazy.
Damn, Stanley. I got nothing for that one.
I'm telling you, man.
Steals, we were talking about Stanley.
Oh my goodness.
Some of the stuff I get told off the record is like honestly funny. Like there's some stuff I'm not gonna repeat on this podcast, like about former Pistons. Like it's honestly really funny. Like the stuff you hear, you're like, ain't no way that's true. And then you hear it again, you're like, oh shit, that was true. Damn.
You need an anonymous tell-all book or something when it's all said and done.
I need the PTFO episode. I've called Pablo's hotline. I've emailed him. I'm just gonna put this in the stratosphere. I need the Monty Williams episode. I need to know to the full extent of what happened. Like,
man,
yes. like I just the question that just continue. Like, I know we've heard rumblings about how bad it was. I know that there's been like breadcrumbs and like things that have been hinted out there, but like the question that just keeps coming back in my mind is how bad does someone have to be for someone to want to pay $64 million to make you go away,
to make you stay home,
to make you go anywhere but there.
I would just love to be a fly in the wall during that organizational meeting that they had. I remember James Edward wrote that athletic piece, and that thing was absolute cinema. Where Tom Gores actually had to get off his ass and say, "Hey, why isn't Jaden Ivey playing?
Play Jaden Ivey.
we just drafted him. Why is he on the bench? Because Killian plays defense." It's just like stuff like that, man. Like I'm with you, Sean. And I think it needs a 30 for 30 personally. Like if the Pistons win a championship with this core, they are damn near going to be doing a 30 for 30 on the Monty Williams era, because there's no way that was a 14-win basketball team.
Do 30 for 30s even still get made though? Like when was the last 30 for 30?
I don't know, man.
It's a good question.
Like ESPN is just kind of falling off a cliff, hiring TikTokers to freaking like take over their socials. It's just
facts.
Well, if you want a real talk too, streaming killed for 30 for 30 because now everyone's making sports documentaries. Like once J.R. Smith is getting a documentary on Amazon, I'm like, all right, we got too many documentaries.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah,
I had no clue.
Oh yeah, no, like there's like The Last Dance, there's like the LeBron documentary. Yeah, you could go watch a J.R. Smith documentary on Amazon Prime.
I think the last one I watched was about Jeremy Lin. He had like a documentary on Netflix. And it was like kind of during like just like that crazy run that he had, and like all the racism he had to deal with, and then like kind of like falling back to reality, and Kobe telling him he's not shit and telling him to pass the ball, and like he didn't pass the ball and he's hitting game winners, and Kobe's pouting during like a post game because he didn't get the last shot.
I remember that. I definitely remember that one. That was crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, we've been on for 2 hours, you guys. I appreciate both of you guys' time, but I want to give you guys both the floor to plug and promote where people can find your work to keep up with you, because both of you guys are some of my favorite content creators. Love reading your articles, Eric, but the floor is yours. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean Halfcourt. You can go to the podcast on YouTube and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts from Half Court. That's where a lot of the stuff's going to be going down. And yeah, man, excited for the season to come up. Thanks for having me on. I'm sure we'll definitely be chopping it up again.
Yeah, man, this has been a great time as always. And thank y'all for tuning in as well. You can follow me on social media at I am Eric Vincent, as you see here on the screen. You can follow my beat reporting work at clutchpoints.com. All my articles on there you can check on every week. And I have my own YouTube page as well, Top Title Detroit, trying to ramp up and catch both of y'all. I know y'all both killing on the subscribers. I ain't even got a K on my number yet. So I'm trying to reach up to 500 to do my baby steps. So if y'all want to go check me out on there at Top Title Detroit, I'll really appreciate that support and love. Appreciate y'all.
Oh man, I'm grinding over here. I'm trying to get to 30,000 before the season starts. I'm close, man. I'm close. It's just, man, it's a grind just to get subs on YouTube these days. Because like you'll say something and people love it, and then like one day you just like come up here and you say something, you're like, oh, unsubscribe, you suck, block. I'm like, oh damn.
You got to go out of your way to unsubscribe from someone on YouTube. It's free support. If they unsubscribe from you on YouTube, you know you did something crazy.
I have one guy. He doesn't comment anymore. I went on Crunch Time. Shout out to Jeff and those guys.
Shout out to Jeff.
Love those. I haven't been invited on since, so maybe I pissed him off. Who knows? I haven't been on since the draft at Rhode Island, but we're talking NBA draft during that night. And this guy goes to my YouTube channel and just hate comment for 2 months straight. He finally fell off like last month. He's been doing it for a year. Tell me, delete my YouTube channel. You're the worst. Bro, it's like, I commented, I was like, I just respect your dedication. I was like, you should get a job with that type of energy and commitment and hustle. Like, I'm sure you'd be a very fine McDonald's worker.
Yeah, man.
He a fan. That's crazy.
Imagine all the fries that can be bagged if he put his mind to doing something productive.
Oh, they'd probably still be burnt or cold.
Forgot to even put them in the fryer, so like they're still frozen.
Salt. Right.
Oh man, I like I said, if I piss you off, my bad. You want to come at me, you want to DM me out, because I got some of you guys that DM me. Like, this guy wrote me a thesis of what the Pistons should do this offseason. I still haven't opened it. Like like Twitter told me that it was over like 5,000 characters. I was like, dog.
Oh yeah.
No, you should go right for Fansided if you got that much to say.
Absolutely. Let's get your old website going, pal. Jesus.
Oh man, that should. Let's do a Substack. Like, honestly,
right?
You're gonna write me that damn much, but appreciate all 526 of you guys watching us on a Thursday night. But we will see you guys next week. And as always, go Pistons.